Hello you beautiful creatures, how the devil are you? I hope you're well. If you're new here, my name is Lou, or Lucifer, as my friends like to call me. By my friends I mean my ever-growing army of demons. The original Simfluencer is back, and also an old favourite from the channel is also back. We are bringing back Tea and Terror. If you don't know what Tea and Terror is, we basically sit down with a lovely brew. This one is very, very warm. This is actually Bird and Blend's very own campfires and vampires, because we're going to be talking about Nosferatu, the one that everybody is talking about. It's the best horror film of the year currently. But yes, I thought I would bring it back. I miss it. Everybody else misses it. I've got my notes up actually as well, so you know I'm serious about this. We're not going in just randomly, just like off the fly, off the cusp. We're going in with prep, research and dignity. Yes, very good. So if you haven't watched Nosferatu yet, please be pre-warned that this is going to be a spoiler heavy review. We're going to be talking about all the in-depth things, so please make sure you watch it beforehand. Or if you do want to watch this just to get an idea of what Nosferatu is, then I'm not going to stop you. I just don't want you to ruin it for yourselves before you actually get to see this absolute masterpiece. So go and watch it or don't, but let's settle in, let's get our tea ready, and let's tackle Nosferatu. So, where do I begin with this film? Well, Nosferatu, the remake of the 2022 Nosferatu, if you haven't seen it, don't worry about that, follows a very similar vein to Dracula because it's meant to be an adaptation of Dracula. If you didn't know, when Nosferatu came out, Bram Stoker's wife was not too happy about it. So there was a whole lawsuit, there was all the bad things going on, and Bram Stoker's wife essentially wanted all of the copies of Nosferatu to be burned, destroyed, anything. However, several prints and copies remained, so we actually get to see Nosferatu today. I actually watched it on YouTube a couple of months ago, and it was brilliant. Honestly, it was absolutely brilliant. So Nosferatu's Symphony of Horror follows a very similar vein to Dracula, because that's what it is. It's an adaptation of Dracula. You've got the troubled individual that goes away to the castle to try and get a vampire to sort his bearings out, to come over to another land to basically settle down and do terrible things to terrible people. However, this one is very, very different. Well, different and not different. So obviously it's following Thomas Hutter, his wife Ellen Hutter, and he has been told by his boss Knock to go and basically travel to this distant land to go and sort out Count Orlok's affairs, to come over to their area of living where he can basically settle down. Obviously there's nefarious purposes ahead, you get that from the get-go. I didn't actually realise that Knock, you can hear him laughing like manically in the movie, and I was like, oh my god, already crazy man. So yes, this poor man travels high and low to basically go to Count Orlok and try and help him with his affairs, to move him over to their town where they live. Now, where it differs from Dracula, when Count Orlok actually comes over, he brings a plague with him that basically ransacks the town, kills a load of people. It brings rats into the town, it brings infestation, illness. It's very much like the Black Death. Again, it also differs from Dracula because at the end, I mean, this isn't a spoiler to people who have watched Nosferatu, the 2022 version. It is actually Ellen who does sacrifice herself by keeping Count Orlok busy, drinking her blood, so he doesn't realise that the sun's coming up whilst her husband is... She basically tricks her husband to go out, get a doctor for her, and then when he comes back, she has passed away. So unlike Dracula, it doesn't have a happy ending, which honestly, I really enjoy about it, to be fair. This movie really... it really sets the tone for the dreary and the drab and just the hopelessness of it. Robert Eggers is brilliant at this because with his previous works, I haven't seen The Norseman, I've seen The Lighthouse, and I've seen The Witch as well. Depending on who you ask, it depends on whether you think The Witch actually had a happy ending or a kind of bleak ending. I personally think it had an incredible ending. I was very happy with that ending. A lot of us were going, yes, queen, slay. So this ending again is very, very bleak. The tone all the way through the movie is bleak, beautifully bleak, that's how we put it. Also, I want to do a massive shout out to the cast because there wasn't a single weak link. Obviously we had Lily Rose Depp, we also had Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. He is fantastic, phenomenal. The fact that he went to an opera singer and he tried Mongolian throat singing to get the voice of Orlok is absolutely incredible. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, he was fantastic. The whole cast, everybody was fantastic. Willem Dafoe, Ralph Ineson, I've literally got all my notes up here. Emma Corrin as well, the fact that they came fresh out of Deadpool and Wolverine and came straight into this like hellish landscape was fantastic, phenomenal. But like I said, there wasn't a single weak link. Like, everybody carried the story so beautifully, and it was so nice to see how this whole situation impacted everybody. Everybody was a very sympathetic character rather than being like, oh god, okay, here we go. But Lily Rose Depp really stole the show. It was just, oh my god, the whole narrative of women not being listened to and the concept that lustful thoughts and lustful thinking and thinking outside the box was just delightful, amazingly delightful. And it was very, very sad because the whole reason that these like events happen is because her character Ellen felt so ostracized by society and everything like that, even by her family, that she essentially made a deal with the devil. So that's how it differs massively from Dracula as well. So from the beginning we see that she is calling out to this entity and she's essentially made a pact with this devil, with this monster Count Orlok. So it really does give him, I don't know, it really does give that kind of really bizarre relationship already. Like, she's already aware of it, and Count Orlok is just fantastic. A kind of devil, a kind of plague, a kind of death. And it was very interesting as well because when we first watched the trailer, I spoke to Gareth about this, and we pretty much had the idea that you wouldn't actually see a lot of Count Orlok. You know, he'd mostly be in shadow, he'd mostly be insinuated, so with a lot of shadow work, with a lot of silhouette work as well. And from the get-go, quite early on in the film, you actually get to see Count Orlok, but he's not the kind of vampire that you would find attractive. Now listen, okay, we know I'm freaky. Bill Skarsgård, you could put him in whatever, and I think a lot of people would still find him attractive. I mean, this is the same guy. I was watching It, and I've never found a clown attractive in my life. Then he turns up, and I have to question a lot of my life choices and a lot of my thought processes. So back to what I was saying, the fact that they made this vampire so hideous and so disgusting was so refreshing, because I think we've really been spoiled as moviegoers with the look of vampires. We've very much forgotten what they are. They are carcasses, they are the living dead, they are a plague, they are death, they are just these horrible, horrible creatures. And when you do see Nosferatu at the end, when you do see Count Orlok at the end, very beautifully done as well, by the way. There's a lot of fun times in this movie. However, every single time it is tastefully done. Even the scene where two people, well, one person is living and the other person is taking a nap. I'm having to be so careful with what I'm saying on YouTube at the moment. Taking a nap, and he wants to have one last embrace with her before he dies. Even that is beautiful. It's all beautiful, and I think this movie is very much for the kind of people who they can see the beauty in the grotesque, in the awful, in the dark. So if that's your vibe, then this movie is definitely for you. But Count Orlok, his look, a lot of people have not shamed, like critiqued the look. However, if you look into the historic side of it, from where he is based, a lot of soldiers and a lot of warriors from that time period would have looked exactly how he looked, with the comb over, with the balding, and with the moustache as well. Like a lot of Romanian royalty, they would have had a moustache. Also, Vlad the Impaler, who Dracula was based off, also had a moustache, so I don't understand where that's come from. But my main point is, it's so nice to go back to something that is horrendously grotesque. The scene where it's Thomas and Count Orlok, and they're preparing all the papers ready for him to come over, you can see the fear and the absolute look of horror and just the disgust. And when you do see Count Orlok, this is when he's shadowed, by the way. When you do see Count Orlok, it is very unnerving. The atmosphere, the energy is just carried all the way throughout the movie. Even if he's not in a scene, you are aware of his presence, which is fantastic. And that's very much the same as the original. You are constantly aware of the impact that Nosferatu is having on everybody, whether it's the plague, whether it's the nightmares, whether it's the possession. I mean, the fact that they treated the contract between Ellen and Count Orlok as almost like a possession is incredible. I wouldn't expect to see things that I saw in Nosferatu in a vampire movie. I would expect to see it in movies like The Exorcist. Essentially, I felt like I was watching a scene from The Exorcist when the doctors were trying to diagnose what was going on with Ellen. You wouldn't expect that, and the moments of mania and the insanity of it all, you do not expect that from a vampire movie, and I thought it was incredibly refreshing. But then when I looked to the original Nosferatu, it was very similar then, a lot more lethargic. Ellen's reaction to Count Orlok and the sway he had on her was a lot more lethargic than Lily Rose Depp's version. However, I think that it really brought like the gravitas of this contract and this need for each other, and just this horrible, like almost like Stockholm syndrome, was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And again, the atmosphere with the locations, the set, the sound, the music. The original Nosferatu is a symphony of horror. It's a silent film. It's carried all the way through by music. And I think that's why it was so important that Robert Eggers understood the assignment when he was making the music and kind of building the music with what was going on with the scenery. Oh my god, in the mountains was incredible. It was almost like a shot by shot of the original 1922 movie. But the shadow work as well. The shadow work was incredible. Again, with the 1922 version, obviously they didn't have the technology that we have. So the fact that they did a lot of their scaring and terrifying with shadow, it was a lot of silhouetting, a lot of handwork, a lot of unnatural shadow movement. That's what they brought to the modern version. So the scene where he's literally bringing his hand over the town, I believe that was all practically done. So that was like a mini version of the town, and Bill Skarsgård would have been reaching his hand over that build up. It was fantastic because you essentially saw the plague coming from the ship over the town and seeing it spread, and just seeing how awful it was. And it was so nice to look at a vampire from a different perspective, with the impact that they would have on a settlement or a group of people. So obviously with Dracula, he bites you, bada bing, bada boom, you're dead. Oh no, you're alive again, but not really, you're a vampire. With this one, you're dead. You were just straight up dead. And it wasn't even, the way that they usually bite your neck is quite, I don't know, sexy, romantic. This wasn't. Like, he was full on getting his maw into your chest and just like sucking it up like it was, ugh. Bill Skarsgård has just got such fantastic physicality, because you could see the life force literally like going through his body with his movements. It was messed up, don't get me wrong, like it's all messed up, but all beautifully messed up at the same time. It's just, oh, incredible. See, I've been trying to have this conversation with myself about, would this film be a film for a regular cinema goer? In the case of, hey, let's go on a date to watch the latest horror movie, or, oh yeah, you know, I'll watch a horror movie every time it goes out because I want a good jump scare. And I think that's open to interpretation. Obviously, for people who have been following like the vampire lore, the Dracula lore, whether it is Nosferatu or it is Bram Stoker's Dracula, this is incredible. Like, this is fantastic. This is one of the best remakes I've ever seen. And the fact that they built so much on top of the original story was fantastic. Everything worked. It was brilliant. The fact that they made the contract between Ellen and Count Orlok so much more and already established that there was a link. I'm using my hand a lot, I can only apologise, was fantastic. So everything was put in the right place and made sense. The only thing I'll shout about is Knock. So he's essentially the Renfield of Nosferatu. In the 2022 version, he goes stark raving mad, as he does in the remake. However, when he's incarcerated, he just kind of chills there. And then he's aware that Count Orlok is coming. And then he just goes on like a tirade and runs away. And then he comes back again and he does nothing. The fact that this poor vampire has to literally pick up his coffin and carry it with him everywhere. Insane. Absolutely insane. I thought that was very, very funny. I had a good chuckle, I'm not going to lie. But Knock in this one had a very similar Renfield kind of role, where he did escape from incarceration. He did help his master, obviously, until he got killed, because shock horror, he does in every movie. Also, will pre-warn, there's a lot of animal in this, so yeah, that's the tea with that one. Tea. But my point is, would I recommend this to a casual cinema goer who isn't like a cinephile, who isn't somebody who's really deep into this? And the answer is yes, I would, because it's a completely different experience. No, this isn't a jump scare movie. It's not going to be like a Conjuring or like an Annabelle or something like that, where it just depends on jump scares. There are lulls in the movie where it is just scenery, or it is just world building, or it is just something that's going on. And that's what Robert Eggers does so beautifully. Like, there doesn't have to be dialogue all the time. Sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's music. And I do think that some people get bored about it. You know, I feel like, again, we have been very, very lucky and very spoiled with cinema, particularly when it comes to the Marvel movies, because something is happening in every single scene. It isn't world building, it isn't, okay, we're going to give you a moment away from the horror to build up on something so you get more of the story. And I think that's what's so refreshing about this movie. Like, I truly spent moments watching different scenes where it was just about the direction of a character without any words, or it was just the set or the scenery, or seeing how things were changing because of like Orlok's presence. It was just amazing. One of the scenes that like literally took my breath away was when Thomas was going to get the carriage, and the carriage turns up, and the woods around him, the darkness, the use of black and shadows and all sorts, breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And I really believe as cinema goers that we need this kind of palette cleanse to kind of reintroduce us to the fact that a movie can take its time and it can take its pace, because when it does take its pace, it's so much more enjoyable than everything being crammed together. But that's just me personally. I mean, I do think some people will get bored in this film. I do. And that's because it's like TikTok. We've been so oversaturated with bright colours and loud noises and things happening quickly. And because we are so like desensitized to it all, I think some people will genuinely be like, oh bloody hell, really, is this happening again? I don't know. But then some of the more intense, gory yet beautiful, disturbing, unnerving scenes, I really think it will upset a lot of people. It's very similar to Midsummer, The Witch, I would say Hereditary, but that's a sore subject for this channel. Yeah, so those moments of true horror and disgust and disturbing visuals, I think they really pop and they really stick out, because what Robert Eggers does so well is pacing with his movies. So particularly with The Lighthouse and particularly with The Witch, one, it comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh my god, this is crazy. So like the starts of a lot of his movies are crazy. You know, you're basically seeing that Ellen has made a pact with this monster. In the beginning it's all fine and dandy and she is having a great time, might I add, and then the next minute she is having what is essentially an epileptic fit, which to a lot of people is disturbing, who one, haven't experienced that before, or who have experienced that before and know exactly what it is. It's horrendous. It's the same with The Witch. Like, it's, yeah, it's crazy. So yes, I would recommend it, but go in with a pinch of salt. I don't know, it's totally up to interpretation. I don't want to be that kind of channel that says, no, you're really not going to enjoy this because it's too educationally above you, and you know, that's not fair. Somebody who's so used to seeing jump scares and stuff like that might come into this and it might be really refreshing for them. So I really think as cinema goers, we really need to keep an open mind and support other people in the community as they watch these movies and actually realise that they enjoy the movies. So, main takeaway from Nosferatu. Whole thing was incredible. I loved every single second of it, whether it was something to do with the set, the sound, the costumes. Oh, the costumes, let me tell you, it's beautiful because you can literally put side by side photos of the 1920-22 version and this version and you can see the massive influence that it's had. Like, Robert Eggers has really looked into, well, the whole team, everybody who's worked on this movie has really looked into the historic, like, timepieces, the historic accuracies. Nosferatu in general, they really took that work and reworked it in an incredible way, and honestly I am so glad that they didn't destroy Nosferatu in the beginning, because we wouldn't have this. I mean, a lot of us know Count Orlok from Nosferatu, from SpongeBob, and Robert Eggers actually says that, like, he is grateful that SpongeBob had Nosferatu in it, because people like me, so I was watching SpongeBob when I was yay big, and that was my first introduction to Nosferatu. My parents weren't going to tell me about that. They told me about Dracula, because Dracula, you know, Dracula is Dracula. He's the main vampire. But I wonder if we would have had the Dracula movie without the Nosferatu movie. And that's a subject for another day, but I'm really glad that events happened the way they did, because of the way they have, we now have this Nosferatu, which is an absolutely incredible picture, and I would fully recommend going to see it. Before I sign off, I do want to pre-warn that yes, this does have children going to sleep for a very long time. It also has a relation between a living person and a not so living person. Wow, I'm trying so hard. This all stemmed from a Snapchat ban, by the way, so I'm trying my damned hardest. What else does it have? So it's not actually real, but it does have a lot of animals going to sleep for a very long time and all that good stuff. Has all that good stuff. If you have a fear of rats, this movie is not gonna be fun for you. However, behind the scenes, Willem Dafoe did say that the rats were very sweet. They filmed all those scenes, and the scene where Nicholas Hoult is running away from the three wolves, the wolves are real. So, you know, they really did a lot of hard work for it. And also, yes, there is gratuitous nudity in this one, including Count Orlok being fully exposed. Whether you're into that or you're not into that, that's none of my business. I'm not going to judge you. Am I into that? I'll leave that up to interpretation. But yes, that was my mini review of Nosferatu. I really hope you enjoyed this, guys. I'd really like to bring this back again. I feel like I was a little bit shaky at the start because I haven't done this in a hot second. However, we're doing the Wolfman next week and I am so excited for it, so I'm really hoping to bring this up again. But yes, if you enjoyed this, please let me know. I'd really love to bring Tea and Terror back We also might be bringing the podcast back, so that is very exciting. We're starting the new year strong. We really want to get the Loucifer channel smashing it again. But if you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, subscribe. Please consider commenting as well. Like, everything that I've just mentioned is free for you but means so much to us. We really want to smash the numbers out this year, and we really want to build our community. So I hope you've had a good day. If not, that's okay. Always remember, tomorrow's a new day. See you later, guys.